In a world where proclaiming the name of Christ could cost you your life, we find the remarkable story of the Apostle John, a man who witnessed the miracles of Jesus, endured unimaginable trials, and showed a level of faith that still inspires us today. John, often called the beloved disciple, walked alongside Jesus in a way that few others did. He was there during the high points of Christ's ministry, witnessing firsthand the miraculous healings, the feeding of thousands, and even the resurrection of the dead. But his journey was not just a path of glory and victory. It was one marked by suffering, resilience, and a faith that withstood the harshest tests. As we unravel this powerful journey, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel to ensure you stay connected with more stories of faith, strength, and perseverance. This will help others find these messages, and it also helps us continue creating content that lifts and inspires. John was not always the gentle, reflective disciple he is often portrayed as. Born to Zebedee, a fisherman of considerable means, John and his brother James grew up in a close-knit Jewish family on the shores of the Sea of Galilee. They knew the value of hard work, discipline, and resilience, qualities that would serve them well in the years to come. John's life took a pivotal turn when he encountered Jesus of Nazareth, who called him away from the life he knew to follow a path of faith. Jesus saw in John not just a fisherman but a man destined to play a significant role in the birth of Christianity. Early in their time with Jesus, John and James were nicknamed Sons of Thunder, a title that reflected their passionate and sometimes impulsive nature. In one instance, when a Samaritan village refused to welcome Jesus, John and James asked if they should call down fire from heaven to destroy it. This fiery response earned them the nickname, and though Jesus corrected them, it showed the fierce loyalty and dedication they held for him. John, however, was not just defined by his temper. His journey with Jesus transformed him deeply, turning his passionate nature into a powerful force for faith and love. As Jesus' ministry grew, John found himself part of an inner circle alongside Peter and James. He was there during some of the most intimate moments in Jesus' life. At the Last Supper, it was John who reclined close to Jesus, symbolizing his deep bond with his teacher. And during Jesus' trial and crucifixion, while most disciples scattered in fear, John remained at the foot of the cross, standing by Jesus in his final moments. It was there that Jesus entrusted John with the care of his mother, Mary, in an ultimate gesture of trust and love. John's close relationship with Jesus profoundly shaped his faith, giving him a strength that would carry him through the trials that lay ahead. After Jesus' resurrection and ascension, John became a pillar of the early Christian church. His preaching, teaching, and unwavering devotion to Christ spread hope among believers and a renewed sense of purpose within the Christian community. The Roman authorities, however, saw John and his growing influence as a threat. During a period of intense persecution under Emperor Domitian, who demanded to be worshipped as a god, John's refusal to renounce his faith put him at odds with the Roman powers. The government saw his allegiance to Christ as defiance, leading to his arrest and trial in Rome. But even imprisonment did not shake John's faith. According to early Christian tradition, John's captors attempted to silence him by executing him in the most horrific way imaginable, by throwing him into a cauldron of boiling oil. Surrounded by a crowd that anticipated his death, John was lowered into the oil, but miraculously, he emerged unscathed. The crowd, witnessing what seemed to be divine intervention, was stunned, and some reportedly even converted to Christianity on the spot. The Roman authorities, unable to kill him, decided instead to exile John to the island of Patmos, a barren, desolate place where the empire sent its political prisoners. In the isolation of Patmos, most would have fallen into despair. But John's exile became a time of profound revelation and divine encounter. Alone on the island, far from his fellow believers and the community he had worked so hard to build, John received one of the most powerful visions recorded in the Bible, the Revelation, a prophetic glimpse of the ultimate triumph of Christ over the forces of darkness. This vision, filled with symbols, warnings, and promises of hope, became the final book of the New Testament and remains one of the most studied and revered texts in Christianity today. Even in his old age, John's faith and commitment to Christ remained unwavering. After the death of Emperor Domitian, John was allowed to leave Patmos, returning to the church in Ephesus. There, he continued his work, preaching and teaching with a zeal that defied his years. He is said to have been carried to the gatherings of believers, where he would often repeat the words, "Love one another," as a final command from his Lord. John's later life, full of both wisdom and gentleness, was a testament to the transformative power of his walk with Christ. John's journey did not end with his miraculous survival, or even his exile to Patmos. Rather, these experiences only deepened his understanding of faith, love, and divine purpose. After his release from Patmos, he returned to Ephesus and resumed his leadership within the early Christian community. The people who gathered around him in Ephesus found a man transformed, not just by the years or by his hardships, but by a life steeped in love and grace. Even as an elderly man, John's influence was undeniable. He was no longer the fiery, impulsive son of thunder, but a calm and wise elder, filled with compassion and empathy for those around him. John had lived through some of the most turbulent times, watched his fellow apostles martyred, and endured persecution himself, yet he never wavered in his commitment to Christ. He had grown from a young disciple into the beloved elder, respected and revered for his profound wisdom and unwavering faith. By this time, John was widely known as the Apostle of Love, not only because of his writings but also because of his gentle nature. Even in his advanced age, he continued to preach, focusing on one central message: love one another. This was the foundation of his teachings, and he repeated it frequently, saying it was the commandment Jesus had given and the key to a true life of faith. Those who had expected him to be bitter or hardened by his trials instead found a man who radiated peace and kindness. He had experienced pain, loss, and near death, but he viewed these trials as moments that strengthened his faith rather than weakened it. In his later years, John's words became a source of hope for early Christians, who faced constant threats from both Roman authorities and religious opposition. His letters to the churches, now part of the New Testament, emphasized the importance of love, obedience, and unity within the community of believers. In 1 John, he reminds the faithful that God is love, and that true fellowship with God is reflected in love for one another. His writings sought to guide the early church through challenges, encouraging them to remain steadfast and united. John's messages were not just instructions, they were reminders of the life and teachings of Christ, which he had witnessed firsthand and was now passing on. While his physical strength may have waned, John's spiritual insight and influence only grew. He became a symbol of resilience, embodying the promise that even when the world appears dark and uncertain, God's love remains a beacon of hope and assurance. John's emphasis on love was not theoretical, it was deeply personal. He had loved Jesus as a friend and teacher, and he shared that love with all he met, drawing people to Christ through his compassion and warmth. According to tradition, John lived to an advanced age, outliving all other apostles, and eventually passed away peacefully in Ephesus. Unlike his fellow apostles who faced martyrdom, John's death was not marked by violence but by a quiet transition, as though God had preserved him to fulfill a unique role among the disciples. His long life, his survival from the boiling oil, and his visions on Patmos all spoke of a man destined to be a witness of both Christ's earthly ministry and the hope of his return. Even today, John's story resonates with believers around the world. His gospel and letters continue to be a source of strength and comfort for those facing hardships, offering insight into the transformative power of faith. His vision in the book of Revelation, filled with images of trials and triumphs, speaks to the endurance of the faithful and the ultimate victory of God's kingdom. John's legacy reminds us that, while trials may come and even persecution may arise, there is a greater purpose that transcends the challenges of this world. John's life is a powerful reminder that faith can withstand any trial, that love can conquer any hatred, and that even in the most impossible circumstances, God's protection and presence are real. His survival from the boiling oil and his continued ministry on Patmos and beyond serve as testimony to the divine plan that sustained him. Through John's example, we are reminded of the importance of trusting God, remaining faithful, and sharing love with others, no matter the cost. So, as we close this story of John, let us reflect on our own journeys. Like John, we may face trials that test our faith, moments when we feel abandoned, or times when it seems the world is against us. Yet, John's life assures us that we are never truly alone, for the same God who protected and guided him is with us as well. As the Apostle John showed through his life and teachings, true faith is found in unwavering love, steadfast hope, and a heart willing to serve even in the face of adversity. Thank you for joining us in exploring the remarkable life of the Apostle John. If you found inspiration in this story, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories that uplift and encourage. May John's example inspire us to live with courage, compassion, and an unshakable trust in God's love.